Raskolnikov was like, "You're just trying to freak me out." Dostoevsky said, "It's a thriller. Twists, turns, edge of your seat, you'll be on it." So I think that I can do this relatively easily, she said with trepidation. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley Hannah and I'm the Moody Reader. This video is to chronicle me undertaking a daunting task. And that task is reading Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And this task actually, I hope, won't be so daunting because I have read one other book by Mr. Dostoevsky. I read The Brothers Karamazov this year, so it's recent, it's new. But I read it in its entirety, and I really enjoyed it, and it wasn't that hard. So I think that I can do this relatively easily, she said with trepidation. Basically, I just want to challenge myself to read the classics and to read harder, bigger books, because usually when I read them, I feel a sense of accomplishment, and they just do something for my soul, you know? I just feel like these books, these authors of the past, they see right to me, right to me, they see right through me, and they call me out, and I just, like I said, I feel accomplished, and I feel like a philosopher when I read these books. And that's the long and short of it. That's it. So I don't know very much about this book besides the fact that it is about a man who plots murder and then does the murdering. That's really all I know. And I think that's okay. I also did start this one 2 years ago. I had planned on reading this, and I think it was in the summer as well. And I don't know, it just wasn't hitting. I am also a mood reader, so that could also factor into it. I wasn't in the mood for it, but someone wrote in a comment that this book is basically like a thriller. It's like a game of cat and mouse, and I love thrillers. I just did a video where I read a bunch of thrillers, and I want to see, is this thriller of the past, like, is it my jam? Am I gonna like it? So yeah, I will be chronicling all my thoughts and feelings whilst reading this one. I have this Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition, which is really super snazzy. Super snazzy, and it's got the deckled edges, which I'm not a fan of deckled edges. And I know that's not a hot topic or a hot take. Lots of people don't like deckled edges. So why do they do them? Why? Why? Well, what I really love is the back of this book. It's pretty cute, pretty crazy. That's all I can really say about this back of the book. And yeah, I didn't find the language and the writing of the Brothers Karamazov to be too impenetrable. I feel like it's fairly easy to grasp, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. And I'm curious, is it worth it? Is it overrated? We'll see. Okay, so follow along. This intro's been long enough. We're just gonna read a classic, okay? Okay. So we're about 109 pages into Crime and Punishment, and
We've already had the murder, but I want to talk about a couple of things that happened before then, because that interests me way more than the murder, than the cat and mouse that's apparently about to happen. So we start off the story. We're with Raskolnikov, and he is a student, an ex-student, and he is poor. And he goes to this pawn shop lady, Alyona. What is her name? Alyona Ivanova. And you get some more insight later on into the fact that no one likes her. She is miserly and she's not very caring. She has a half sister that she beats, and immediately Raskolnikov thinks this is justifiable. No one likes her, so why not kill her? So he's already been plotting, and then we have him and Marmeladov. I think that's how you say his name. I can't remember. And he takes pity on him in a bar. Like, they're just having a conversation, and Marmeladov talks about his family life and how he's a drunk, and he has a wife who has 3 kids of her own, and then he has a daughter. So they have a blended family of sorts. And his daughter's name is Sonia, and Sonia has taken it upon herself to sell her body to help her new family. And so I know that Sonia comes in later on in the story, but for now that's where we leave her. We just have her in the back of our minds that this is a girl that is extremely selfless. And then we've gone away from that a little bit, and it's interesting to see Radya, or Raskolnikov, Radya going from one extreme to the other, where he'll just be walking and thinking about how he's going to murder this lady, but then he'll see this woman and he'll take pity on her, and he sees this other guy clearly about to do something untoward toward her, and he calls the police over. And so you see that he has a conscience. He has something up there, but he also is extremely self-centered. And then, oh my gosh, and then I also forgot that we had a whole section in the book where he gets a letter from his mother, because he's been asking his mom for money. His mom sends him money. I feel like Roddy is just extremely lazy, but then will be willing to kill somebody and go the distance there to get some money. But that's neither here nor there. Basically, his mom wrote him a letter saying, sorry we couldn't send you any money, but we can now because your sister, she was a governess, and her name got sullied a little bit because her boss came on to her and, propositioned her, and she said no. But his wife kind of got wind of it, and then figures out that Dunya, his sister, was innocent, so she goes on a whole apology tour. And then she gets an offer for marriage. And so Radya's mother is like, we have been saved. Your sister has done this for you so that her husband can get you a job and we can get you some money, and our prayers have been answered. And for whatever reason, Radya and his pride don't like that, and he's like, there's no difference between my sister and this girl Sonia who's selling her body. There's no difference. So I guess that's part of what spurs him to action. And then we've had a scene where, like, the back of the book, that scene, I've already read it, where he has a dream about an instance when he was a child with his father, and he witnesses this horse being beaten to death, essentially. And then he wakes up and he's like, yep, I'm gonna do it. And he goes to kill Alyona. But what is really crazy is that Alyona's half-sister walks in after he has done the murdering, and of course he can't let her leave, so he murders her too. So that's where I am. He's gone to the police, because they actually put out a warrant for him. They're like, you need to pay your bills. And he's like, oh, you didn't? He thought they were gonna obviously catch on to him about the murders, but they don't. And yeah, now his conscience, his guilty conscience, is kind of weighing on him. But I don't know how much more plot there is, honestly. Like I don't think I'm gonna hate this. I don't think I'm gonna love it either. I'm kind of just, I'm in the middle of the road right now on what's happening, and honestly, I just really don't like Raskolnikov. He just seems like he has such a god complex, and then nothing's ever his fault, and I don't like him. So that's where we are. I can't help but feel like Radya really wants to get caught. Just in the way that he hides the things that he stole, and I think, I don't know why he doesn't want good things for himself. I don't know what that is. Because even when he is walking back from his friend's house, and after he's hidden the things underneath a rock, even then he walks into the street and almost gets run over, so he gets whipped by the person driving the cart, and everyone thinks he's a beggar, so a woman takes pity on him and hands him about 20 kopecks. And he has it in his hand, he's holding it tightly clenched in his fist, and he throws it into the river. And he does that several times with money that he gains. He gives away his money to Marmeladov's family, and he's like, I should go back and get the money back. And he's like, nah. And then he gives away the money that he gives away money to, it's either the woman that's drunk on the street or the guy that's pursuing her. He gives away money then. I don't understand why he keeps self-sabotaging. I don't understand. But I've just read the part where he goes to sleep, and in his dreams he hears his landlady being beaten. He wakes up and he's like, Nastasia, why did the police officer come to beat the landlady? And she's like, no one was beaten. That's your blood. So I'm like, ooh, now his guilty conscience is like really up in the ante. So, okay, I'm getting more intrigued. Page 150 or 155 check-in, and my guy, Raskolnikov, is trying to get himself put in jail. He got sick after he did the deed. Who's to say why? And after said fact, his friend, Razumikin, he came over and he was like, bro, let me take care of you. And the funniest thing is that he's like, Razumikin, he then like keeps bringing up the murders, and he's like, I don't think it was them. I don't think they did it, because they're trying to blame, first they try to blame the people that were trying to get into the building that Raskolnikov was like holding the door shut against. And so people are like, oh yeah, they did it. And he's like, nah, they wouldn't have done it. And here's why. And then they think it was the decorator who was in the building. But he was like, it doesn't make sense for them either. Think about it, my dudes, think about it. If he did it, why? How can you go from killing 2 people to going outside and roughhousing with your friend and like giggling? He's like, that don't add up. 2 plus 2 is not 17. And so as he's saying this, Raskolnikov is like, and then he has several people that come to visit him whilst he's sick. Like the doctor comes by, and then also his brother-in-law or his future brother-in-law comes by. And Raskolnikov is like, get out of my house. Get out. Even when, like, Raskolnikov gets some more money, and then what I can't stand is that he keeps on giving away his money. Like, I get why he keeps giving it away. But, like, invest that stuff, man. And then, oh, yeah, so Razumihin is like, he says, it was probably somebody who has never murdered before in their life. They probably did it. And the fact that all this is happening while Raskolnikov is right there is just like, okay. But now, Mr. Radya himself has left his apartment, and he is going on a bender. Maybe not on a bender, but he meets one of the, what is his name? Yeah, Debisov. And Zametov is head clerk at the police bureau, and he meets him at a bar essentially, and they're talking, and Radya goes, "You see, if I were going to do it, this is how I would." And so, yeah, he's just hiding in plain sight, and I'm wondering when we're going to get a redeeming side of the story, because all I know is that he's trying to push people away, and he feels bad, obviously, about killing people, but not bad enough. Let me tell you what, I am really enjoying being an intellectual. I am 200 pages in, and it actually has gotten interesting. I was really doubting my ability to care about this story just because it was mostly Raskolnikov. I just don't like him, and obviously we're not supposed to like him. He's a murderer. But I don't know why, but I really like Razumikin. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but that's how I'm going to say it. So I feel like I've missed a couple things. Oh my gosh, Marmeladov died. He was trampled. He's dead. And one redeeming thing about Raskolnikov is that he sees that Marmeladov has been trampled by a horse-drawn carriage. He's like gotten caught in the spokes of the wheels and dragged however many feet. And he goes and says, I know this guy. I'm going to take him back to his wife and his stepchildren. And they go off to see Katerina, the she-harpy. And she has a big freak out. The kids are like, oh my gosh. And the whole death of Marmeladov is really quite sad. And even then, there's not a lot of love between him and his wife. But then Sonia comes in, and the thing that I really liked is that Katerina's, one of her daughters, goes down after the death and talks to Raskolnikov, and she basically says that she prays for this many people. She prays for her old dad. She prays, who is, of course, dead. She prays for her new dad, who is now dead. And then Raskolnikov says, will you do something for me? Will you pray for me? And that humanizes Raskolnikov to me a little bit more. So I kind of feel for him a little bit. Because, you know, we're all human. So I can't get too high and mighty. But then Dunya and her mother come into the picture. And they're like, oh my gosh, our poor Radya, what's happening? And he's like, you know, I'm not too happy with you people. Because he really just does not want Dunya to marry what's-his-face. Because he's like, don't do that for me. Like, I think he feels guilty about that too. Because he's such a screw-up in his own life that she's having to do this for him. And I can see where he would be particularly off-put by that. But then I love when Razumikin meets Dunya, and he's automatically smitten. And I think this is the book. Not me trying to find a romance in Crime and Punishment. He's clearly besotted, and I think it's cute. So I'm enjoying this much more. Clearly, we're tabbing things. There are things being said, obviously. But I'm just looking forward to seeing the things that I haven't seen people talk about, because all I've really known about this book is that this guy has a guilty conscience. That's all I've known. And so I'm just looking forward to forming my own opinions about said work. So, y'all, this book is hitting the right spot. And I think it's because I didn't have any of those, what do you call them? Oh yeah, expectations. I had none of those going in, and I was really bored at for the first 150 pages. And then Dostoevsky said, it's a thriller. Twists, turns, edge of your seat. You'll be on it. And I am. So, okay, so I'm on page, I don't even know where I'm, like my thoughts are all jumbled. I'm on page 301, baby. And because I'm on page 301, that means I know things. What do I know? I know that, okay, so the character of Raskolnikov, let's be serious. The character of Raskolnikov, he has, oh yeah, so we had like a little meeting with the police officers, and they were like, one of them is kind of like the epitome of good cop. The other one is bad cop. And bad cop was like, he said, I read an article that you wrote where you basically justified murder. I don't know why he said this to him, but I mean, cat and mouse, I guess, cat and mouse. And Radia was like, okay, so here's the tea. You think you caught me out, but here's what happened. I wrote that because this, that, and the other. And essentially, he explains why this book is called Crime Punishment. He says, one, you need to be extraordinary to commit murder and to let blood. And then two, he says that the punishment for doing the crime should either be you get sent to jail, you do the time, or your guilty conscience works on you. But you know, you've gotten away with it, essentially. And clearly he knows this from experience. So that was a choice on his part to justify all of that. But then the twist and what makes this a thriller, the twist that comes into play is that Svidrigailov, I butchered his name, I know it. You don't have to tell me. I know. Marfa's not ex-husband, because she was still married to him when he killed her. But Marfa's husband, or the guy that came on to Dunya, he just shows up in Raskolnikov's apartment. And what's funny to me is that, like, a few chapters before, Raskolnikov was like, he was leaving his apartment, and it was either Sonia or Razumikhin. He was like, they were like, you don't lock your door? And he's like, happy people don't need to lock their doors. And then he doesn't lock his door, so a murderer walks in, and then said murderer like goes on to talk to him like it's a normal day, and he basically says, I want you to get me a meeting with Dunya, your sister. I don't want her no more, but I have money for her, and I think that she shouldn't marry Pyotr Petrovich, which she shouldn't. She should not marry him. And then we have a whole dinner party. I mean, I guess they don't have dinner, but they sit around the table, and basically Pyotr Petrovich, her betrothed, is like, I don't want to see your brother. Your brother, he is dirt under my boot. And of course, Radia shows up to this meeting, and Pyotr makes a fool of himself, and he's like, well, first of all, he keeps on saying that, you know, he doesn't care whether or not Dunya marries him. He's like, I'm doing you the favor. But then he has like a whole monologue or inner monologue later on when Radia says, you know, she's not going to marry you, obviously. And he's like, dang it, I really did love her. I became I adored her. I learned to adore her, and she's higher in intellectual and not social, but she's higher in everything but money. In station-wise, and he was going to love keeping her under his thumb, and he's like, you really do need a good wife, blah blah blah. But we haven't seen the last of him, that's for sure. I'm like, we have so much more to read. I'm like, what's gonna happen? Is there gonna be any more twists and turns? Am I going to have my world rocked? Probably. What else is happening? Oh, and now we're just talking with Sonia. And I'm still quite pissed at Radia because now he goes into this girl's apartment and he goes to tell her that she's a sinner, but then, like, and she doesn't need to help Katerina Ivanovna. And I'm just like, okay, Sonia's already had a hard enough life. Leave her alone. Okay, we're gonna keep reading. Also, this has nothing to do with the vlog. I'm going to IKEA because I'm gonna get a bookshelf because I need to retire that book tower. That book tower needs to go. There's the door, right over there. And I think I also bought a book cart because my book cart is full of nonsense. As you can see, I have secured the goods, but one wrong break and I will die. If this comes flying forward, you have no clue. But I am, because I made my mom come with me to get my things, I am now chauffeuring her to various places while listening to All I Need. Luther Vandross, yep. Okay, so I'm gonna read, that's it. This man really said, you should just end it all. I don't know why you're living. And then goes, what on earth, he wondered, could have kept her from ending it all? Only then did he fully grasp what these poor little orphaned children meant to her. And this pitiful, half-crazed, consumptive Katerina Ivanovna, forever banging her head against the wall. Oh my gosh. Raskolnikov really needs to get a grip. Oof. I also forgot to mention that somebody saw Raskolnikov murder. And they're just waiting for the right time, the right place. So yeah, I'm now 310 pages in, and that whole scene with Sonia, I think she deserves better. And what's his face, Raskolnikov, is like, we should be together because we're both damned, and we're both horrible people. Well, Sonia's not a horrible person, okay? Sonia is, it says in this book, Sonia is like pure of heart, essentially. If not in other ways, she's pure of heart. And I'm like, she deserves much better than this troglodyte. Okay. Also, why in the world do I have my seatbelt on? Oh my gosh. Woo! I'm free. So it has been a few days since I last updated on the whole crime and punishment thing. I am currently 355 pages into this bad boy, and we've reached a point where, sorry, I'm trying to do my makeup before work, but I can't find my eyeshadow. I need my eyeshadow or else I can't look pretty. Drat. We've reached a point where we just had like an interrogation with, I swear, if I can't find my eyeshadow, I'm gonna hit someone. Oh, it was right behind my books. I just did a video filming what books I want to read before the year is over, so that happened. Yeah, we've reached a point where we had an interrogation with, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm just gonna have to, for something, I'm on part 5, if you wanted to know. Porphyry, the investigator. And we just had, so the funny thing is that they had a whole scene where Porphyry was like, you know, it's fine. I know you're not the killer, because if you were the killer, you would be, you know, sweating bullets or blah, 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 blah. He basically was like trying to make him feel comfortable, but also freak him out a little bit. And Raskolnikov was like, you're just trying to freak me out, which he was trying to freak him out. And then he was like, I have a surprise for you in that room over there, door number 2. And then in the next part, we figure out what the surprise was, I think. No, before part 5 starts, we figure out what the surprise was. It was a guy that, like, I think he was there, but he wasn't there. I don't know. Reading comprehension has left the building. But, oh, and then we had somebody come in who confesses to the crime, but he obviously didn't do it because we know who killed those 2. We know. So that's what's happened. And then the beginning of part 5, oh, we had the guy that Dineshka was supposed to marry. He is having a conversation with another guy who, his name escapes me. And this guy like really likes communes. I don't know why. And they had a conversation saying, let's invite Sonia over. Let's give her some money. And that is what has happened. And they gave her some money. And now we're back with Katerina Ivanovna for the funeral. Or not the funeral, but the banquet after the funeral. So basically like, not the reception. You don't have a reception for the dead. Yeah, but we're with her right now. And not gonna lie, it's lagging a tad. I don't love the stall we've had. But I will still continue it, obviously. And I don't know, I think I just don't know what's gonna happen between now and 600 between now and 300 pages from now. Yeah. So I should be reading right now, but I'm currently listening to nonsense. I'm listening to a podcast by Laura Lee and Manny MUA. And it's The Scourge of the Earth, but I can't stop listening. The Fool podcast. No, the Fool Coverage podcast. Retweet if you listen to it. I don't know why, but my mind today is trying to get got by social media. And, what's that word called? Current events? Yeah. So, yeah. We'll see if it gets interesting again. I'm just really wanting there to be another plot twist like there was before. Because that plot twist with what's-his-face, Homegirl's employer, that got me goodly. I was into that. Oh my gosh, I look like a she-harpy. Okay, it's actually been a hot minute since I updated about Crime and Punishment. I actually finished it a couple days ago. I finished it on Wednesday, and for reference, it's Friday. Not that you needed to know that. And I, full disclosure, I've been going through some things, so I wasn't feeling like getting on camera. So I'm back, and I did finish it, like I said, and I can't give it a 5-star because a 5-star book is a feeling. It's in your heart and soul, and it's a book you can't stop thinking about days afterwards. And I've stopped thinking about this book. I have. But did I enjoy it? Yes. Do I feel like an intellectual? I don't not feel like an intellectual. So yes, I do feel like an intellectual. I feel accomplished because I read this chunker and I understood it and I liked it. I did like it. As you can tell, some things were thought, and I don't actually know where I left off. Oh, the rating. My brain is everywhere, y'all. The rating is 4.5, I believe, because it's a good book. I just think that of the Russian literature I've read, of which I'd read 3 books, let's not get it twisted. I'm not that girl. I've read this book, The Brothers Karamazov, and Anna Karenina. And I think, having only read one other Russian author, I think I like Leo Tolstoy better, but that's neither here nor there. I don't know where I left off in the footage of like updating you, but basically, so after that whole thing with Raskolnikov and him, excuse you, people are drag racing outside. After that whole big thing of him almost getting caught by the police, we have a hard pivot to the funeral service or not the funeral service, the banquet, I guess, which honestly, any of the green tabs in here are because it was some funny crap. Katerina Ivanovna is the funniest, like one of the funniest characters. I need to pull out a line she said. Like she's not meaning to be funny, obviously, but like her her disses are so funny. Like, she's so much about status and appearances and having people know that just because she is poor and in this part of her life, she used to be somebody. She's like, we're not gutter people. And so she's roasting her landlady, and she says, this is at the banquet. She said, "You're at it too, are you? You sausage maker. You poxy Prussian drumstick wrapped in crinoline, claiming she stole. Look at you all." Okay, so basically she's like, come on, that's really funny. You sausage maker. That's a diss, man. And yeah, there were some funny lines that Katerina Ivanova she had to say. And I just think that there were some characters in here that I really felt for, like Sonia's family. Like, they went through the gambit. And I learned what consumption was. I don't know why. I feel like that's a thing that I've heard about and read about for years and years and years, decades at this point, and I never knew that someone who was suffering from consumption was someone with tuberculosis, I believe. So Katerina dies of tuberculosis. And, but at the funeral for Marmeladov, Sonia has been to Duneshka's old fiance, his apartment, and he puts money in her pocket and tries to accuse her at this banquet. And Raskolnikov is the only one who can really, like, help her out of the situation. Although the guy that was in there with that man, what is this, Lucian. The guy that's in there with him, he first sees it and he's like, no, that's not what happened. Because he's just still butthurt about not getting Duneshka and not being chosen. Like, she didn't choose his side. She chose her brother's side. So there was that whole thing. And then, like, those were the parts that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed anything that didn't have to do with Raskolnikov and his guilt. I liked because he actually was a good person. He had monomania, and he, like, they say later on that he was bipolar and all of these things. And so putting Raskolnikov aside, he was a fine character. Like, put him over there. What really threw me was what's his face. All these people are going to be called what's his face at this point. I'm having to keep going back because honestly the names aren't confusing. It's just there's a lot of names. Like, I know who everybody was, but I don't actually, like, know their name. Svidrigailov. Okay, all the Russians are gonna roast me for the pronunciation, but it's okay. So Svidrigailov was, it's like we were in a different book when we had his perspectives, and they were so interesting, but so awful. Like, he was a no good dirty Dan. He was the villain. And it was obviously on purpose to contrast Raskolnikov and Svidrigailov, because you could clearly tell that Svidrigailov was just not right in the head. Like, throughout his life, he just went through people's lives and wrecked them. He caused many people to commit suicide because of what he did in their lives. And then he eventually commits suicide because even though he tries to isolate himself, that's another big topic in this book, isolation, when you've done wrong. And you're like, oh, I'll just live with what I've done in isolation. But you really can't do that, obviously. And so then Svidrigailov ends up shooting himself after trying to go live in isolation and having these nightmares, of which he's, like, trying to wake up from, but he can't. So that was very, very interesting. Like, towards the end, that was gripping me. And, and then just, like, Duneshka and, what's his name? I don't know his name. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to this man. I can't stop saying that reference. It's the funniest thing to me. Razumikin. Dmitri. They were cute, but okay, so we want to get to the end, right? So Raskolnikov, he talks to Sonia, and she convinces him, and it's even in the art, cross yourself and pray at least this once. She convinces him to give himself up, to admit to his wrongdoing, because she eventually finds out that he has killed 2 people, 1 innocent, and she believes in him. And you go to the end, and he goes to the police, and he's like, no, I can't do it, I can't do it. And then he goes back down into the street, and he sees her, because he realizes that she, no matter what, she's a ride or die, she will go to the end with him. And I think that he didn't think anyone would do that for him. And so that was very, very sweet to see. Like, Sonia is, like in the Brothers Karamazov, Sonia is like Alyosha. Sonia is very much so like Alyosha, and she's just this selfless, like, beatific being. I don't know. And so that's the end of the book. He gives himself up, and that's that. The epilogue is fun. Not fun. The epilogue it's a good epilogue. And he, goes to Siberia, and he has to, deal with what he did. He does get a lighter sentence because people are like, oh my gosh, he was just crazy. Like, why would he do all these things and hide the evidence in plain sight, not even take the money? It doesn't add up to the people, the jury, the judge, and the jerky. And yeah. Razumikin and Yuneshka end up together. Raskolnikov and Sonia end up together. He has some time in jail that he has to spend, but they're gonna get back together after that. And yeah, I feel like the end was a little underwhelming for all the lead up, but not at the same time. I don't know. It's just not a book that is going to be close to my heart. Because I feel like classics, when they are 5 stars for me, it's because they made me a little weepy, a little tearful. This one didn't do that for me, but I really enjoyed it. And I think I enjoyed it a little bit more than the Brothers Karamazov because the plot itself was more coherent, more cohesive, I should say. It does follow a more succinct storyline and structure. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was how many pages? I read, this copy was 518 pages, and it never once felt daunting. I enjoyed my time reading it, and yeah, I feel accomplished. And now the thing is, I feel like I can't read anything else now. I feel like I've been ruined because I'm reading like easier things, and it's like, ugh. Like, I'm reading One Dark Window right now, and it's okay. I'm just like, it just feels beneath me. I'm just kidding. I'm not trying to be a snob. But there's a sense of accomplishment you get with reading big books, reading classics. There is. Should I read you some quotes that I liked? Yes, I shall. Here's some of my favorite lines. Okay, this is Raskolnikov talking to Sonia. Raskolnikov, or Sonia says, "Sit with me and honor, but I have no honor. I'm a great, great sinner. Oh, you should have never said that." And Raskolnikov says, "It wasn't your dishonor or your sin that made me say it, but your great suffering. You are a great sinner, it's true," he added in a near ecstasy. "And above all, you are a sinner for having destroyed and betrayed yourself for nothing. If that's not a horror, what is?" That one was very poignant. Destroying yourself for nothing, my goodness. There was the conversation between Juneshka and Zosimov, where Zosimov says, "A quite accurate observation," the latter replied. "In this sense, all of us are, often enough, pretty much crazy, with the one small distinction that the sick are that little bit crazier. One must draw a line. It's true, though, that there's almost no such thing as a well-balanced person. You might find 1 in 100 or 1 in several 100,000, and even then only a fairly weak specimen. We're all crazy." And then there's also the lines that are meaningful to me just because, as y'all know, if you've been on this channel for a second, I'm Catholic. proud of it. And Dostoevsky, he writes a lot about faith and Christianity, and so there are some moments where like Sonia is his savior, and because she has faith and he doesn't, like Raskolnikov doesn't have faith for a great portion of this novel, and she gives him that faith because like she is one of the characters that you feel like if anyone shouldn't like have faith and should be jaded and should feel like all is lost, it would be Sonia. Even still, she has a moment where they're talking together, he and Sonia are, and he says, "So you pray to God a lot, Sonia?" And then she says, "What would I be without God?" And for what she's been through, she could definitely say, you know, F it. Like, there's nothing to live for. Like, there's no one up there. But even still, she's like, where would I be without him? So that was what I loved. I like books that talk about that sort of a thing, and that's not for everybody, I know it. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think I enjoyed this novel a lot. But I'm going to stick with my 4.5 because, you know, it wasn't like my perfect book. If I were to be one of those people that made a book my personality, it wouldn't be Crime and Punishment. But I still thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would recommend to people, read it. You'll have a good time. And it was like a nice classic thriller. The cat and mouse thing was a little bit overblown, I think. Like, it wasn't that great. I think it was more the people in the novel that took me through it. So yeah. I think this is the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know, what classic should I read next? I'm gonna leave that in your hands. Yeah. Okay. Bye.